After the passing of Jim Marshall, the legendary designer of the Marshall amplifier, on April 5th at 88 years old, it didn't take long for a who's who list of Jim's friends and clients to organize a tribute concert honoring what he meant to music. The concert, which will take place on September 22nd at Wembley Arena in London, is being billed as Turning It Up to 11, a tribute to Jim Marshall, and will feature Master of Ceremonies Nico McBrain, along with Yngwie Malmsteen, Joe Satriani, Zakk Wylde, Tim Ripper Owens, Glenn Hughes, Paul Gilbert, Whitesnake's Doug Aldrich, and the Cult's Billy Duffy, along with Slipknot Stone Sour frontman Corey Taylor. In the coming weeks, there will be further additions to the lineup for Jim's tribute, as 4 generations of musicians have built their tones on the foundation of the Marshall amp. Artisan News recently caught up with Zakk Wylde to get his thoughts on Jim Marshall and why he left the planet a better place than when he got here.
Well, I mean, Father Marshall, I think, especially hard rock music anyway, but I mean his amps have appeared on countless albums that, they always say when you come here to the party, leave this planet a better place than when you first got here. And he certainly did that, man, in a huge way. So, no, I thank the good Lord. I was blessed to have him in my life, and God bless him. He's the greatest, man.
Slash, who exclusively plays Marshall full stacks and honed his tone on the Marshall amp, also talked about what made the amps a signature sound that everyone in rock and roll wanted.
Well, Jim single-handedly really created the rock and roll amplifier. I mean, probably the most iconic piece of gear ever invented when it comes to rock and roll equipment was the Marshall amp, and he did it single-handedly. He had a vision, and he catered to the artists. He made sure that they were getting what they wanted, and most importantly, it's a signature sound for a lot of people, and it varies from person to person. It's a very flexible kind of an amplifier. In terms of rock and roll is concerned, and it's a mainstay for how I get my tone, and Jim was just a great guy. And one of the cool things is that no matter what, somebody brought this to my attention, is he kept it in England. It's always been an English-made amp, and no matter what kind of offers he got from overseas, he stuck to keeping it in the UK.
Jim Marshall, nicknamed the Father of Loud, was one of the 4 forefathers responsible for creating the tools that allowed the electric guitar to become what it has in the history of rock music. The groundbreaking and inventive foursome also included the late-great trio of guitar builders Leo Fender and Les Paul, and Seth Lover, who is most famous for inventing the humbucker, or hum-canceling electric stringed instrument pickup, most often used on the electric guitar. Together with Jim, they truly are the cornerstones of the electric guitar. Jim Marshall built his Marshall amp to help create a richer sound for guitarists who were unable to afford the expensive U.S. Fender amplifiers. 50 years after Marshall sold his first amp, 4 generations of guitarists and fans continue the name. Marshall amps have defined the sound of rock and are prized by rock guitarists of every age and style, from artists as diverse as Hendrix, Clapton, Van Halen, Slash, Jeff Beck, Frank Zappa, and countless others.